Scenario I'm going to share with you is the scenario where you get 6 months maternity leave, you get all your benefits, and you get paid. Let's face it, pregnancy or getting ready to have a new child in your home, that is stressful enough. And then on top of that, you're trying to figure out all this maternity leave stuff, realizing that there's 5 different programs on different websites, there's different laws, they all have different requirements, and you're not really getting the straight from maybe your boss, or maybe you're feeling like, I don't even want to talk to my boss about this, because that in and of itself can be pretty darn hard to do. It is really just, you can feel so overwhelmed and like you don't even know where to begin. If you're like me and you love to have little agendas before you start your journeys, I was going to just let you quickly know exactly what's going to be coming up in this video. So first, we're going to go over the 6-month timeline that I talked about earlier, where you get 6 months mat leave, it's paid, and you have all your benefits covered. Then we're going to talk about, after that, scenarios where maybe you don't pay into state disability, or you work for your own company, or you're a teacher. We'll have the time links there. That is a really good section for if you're not qualifying for the first part. After that, I'm going to give you some just nuggets of wisdom that I basically learned the hard way and I want to share with you. Tell all my nursing students, never just blindly follow some chick on YouTube or a podcast or Instagram. I totally recommend to all you listeners out there, do your due diligence, okay? Fact check, call your own HRs. Every single mat leave is unique and different. There is just no way I could explain every scenario here. I'm just sharing my personal experience and the knowledge I know to just help give you guys more clarity and to just feel empowered. That's what this is all about today. The big concept that it's really helpful to grasp before you get into all the details is that basically there's 2 sides to this whole maternity leave side. There's the side that's related to the benefits that pay you, and there's the side that's related to all the benefits that keep your job and keep your health insurance. So on this side, the side that pays you, there are 2 main programs. There is state disability, which is California, and there is PFL, paid family leave, which is also through California. Those 2 programs are found on EDD, and they are the ones that are paying you. But you don't just want to get paid while you're on maternity leave. You also want to make sure you have health benefits and that you can return to your job. So on this side of the coin, there are 3 programs that protect you while you're on maternity leave. Now, one is federal, it's called FMLA, and the other 2 are, again, just for California, PDL and CFRA. We'll go into a lot more about how they all work and work together, but the thing is that you're constantly trying to figure out how to use these programs so that both are happening at the same time, so that you're getting paid and you're getting your benefits protected. All right, let's get into it. In order for this 6-month scenario to apply for you and to get everything inside of it, there's 4 things that you need to do. Number 1, your company has to be paying into state disability. Number 2, you need to have worked at your company for 1 year, 1,250 hours by the time of your birth. Number 3, your company needs to have at least 5 employees and hopefully 15, and your company is located in California. All right, the timeline begins. The first thing is you learn that you're pregnant. For a lot of us, we learn that we're pregnant at home because we pee on one of those sticks. That's awesome, but it's really important that you go see your doctor right away and you get an official test that says that you're pregnant, because that's what all the programs need, is something that's from your doctor or your midwife or nurse practitioner that says you're officially pregnant. The other thing your doctor is going to do is tell you your estimated date of delivery. This is really important because state disability starts 4 weeks before your estimated due date. So when you go to work and you tell your boss, hey, I'm pregnant, I'm going to be going on maternity leave, what you really need to tell your boss is that my last day will be 4 weeks before my estimated due date. Now, let's say that everything goes well. You work up until that 4 weeks before your due date. You finished your last day of work. The very next thing that you need to do is head on over to the ED website and you're going to apply for state disability. It's important to note that your first week of disability is never paid, but that's when you start applying. If you're someone like me and you want to apply way beforehand, it doesn't work. You have to actually end your last day and then apply for disability. It's important to note, right, that in order to get disability, your company has to pay into disability. So let's say in this scenario, you applied, everything's going well. The next thing that you can expect is that every 2 weeks, you're going to get some kind of payment from disability. They can either send you a debit card in the mail and they just auto transfer it onto that debit card, or they can send you a check. A nugget of wisdom here is that when I did it through checks, it was annoying. I had to go to my bank. But when I actually put it on the card, I got hacked all 4 times. So after you have a confirmed pregnancy test and a due date, what you're going to do is talk to your boss. So maybe in the first trimester, you're feeling totally good to work. Maybe around the second trimester, you might be feeling also good to work. You're going to be in communications with your boss, because the number one thing to know is that 4 weeks before your estimated due date, SDI guarantees coverage for you to be on maternity leave 4 weeks before your estimated due date. However, if you're not feeling able to work, maybe something is really happening that's extreme. Maybe you're having triplets. Maybe you're having some kind of condition that is really making it unable for you to work. You don't necessarily have to start your disability 4 weeks before your due date. You can talk and communicate with your doctor. If your doctor finds a medical reason why that's related to pregnancy, that you need to not be at work, they can go and talk to state disability and say, hey, she qualifies for being off a little bit earlier before the 4 weeks. However, in our timeline, in our scenario, we're going to say that you were feeling able to work, that you could work all the way up until 4 weeks before your due date. So great. What you're going to do is do your last day of work, and then the very next day, you're going to go and apply to state disability, which is on the EDD website. I'm just going to take a moment here to pause from the timeline, just giving you some really good nuggets of wisdom when it comes to state disability. Once again, with state disability, you will only qualify for it if you paid into it. And in general, what state disability guarantees is 4 weeks before you have your baby, 6 weeks of paid support after you have a baby if it was done vaginally, and 8 weeks after you've had your baby if it was done with a C-section. In general, that's what state disability offers. But like I said, each case is different. If your doctor tells disability for any reason, hey, this is an extreme situation, I think she qualifies for either a longer time before birth or maybe a longer time after birth, these guidelines can change. In our timeline scenario, we're just talking about just the basic scenario if nothing was, unique to the situation. So back up to our timeline. So you've applied for a state disability through EDD. So how much do you get paid, you ask? Great. It's 60 to 70% of your gross pay. Now, don't freak out. I know when I first read that, I was like, 60% of my normal pay? That's crazy. How am I going to make that work? You're probably smarter than me, but I didn't realize that 60% of my gross pay is not 60% of my net pay, what I usually take home. So small example, if say you make $1,000 every 2 weeks, okay, but then you have taxes taking stuff out, you've got your 401k taking stuff out, you got health insurance taking stuff out, you got union dues, all this stuff. After all that's said and done, what you actually take home every month is like $500. That $500, that's your net pay. So disability is going to pay 60 to 70% of that big number, the $1,000. So that's great because $1,000 times 60%, boom, that's $600. You were used to taking home $500. Long story short, actually, you get pretty much a very similar rate to what you used to be getting when you were working. The other cool thing I learned about when I was researching, like how do you get paid from state disability, is that they also base your gross income off your highest quarter. So say you're in a business, like you work at a gym and sales totally fluctuates how much you make per month. So say you make a bunch of sales, January, February, March. So you make way more income during that period of time. They're going to base it off the average of that period of time. Anyway, long story short, it was surprising how well you do get compensated by state disability. Now, coming back up to our timeline, the first thing that's going to be interesting when you get your first paycheck, that'll be 2 weeks into your maternity leave, is you're going to notice is short. So you never get paid for your first week of disability. So your first paycheck is only going to feel like half a paycheck. After that, the next paycheck from disability is going to be a full one. It's going to cover all, 2 weeks worth of what you'd normally get paid. Now, at this time, 4 weeks have gone by. So we'll say in the ideal dream world, you gave birth right on your due date. That's excellent. You're going to give birth at the hospital. And what's really great here is you've already done all this hard work. You've already applied. You've already done everything with the government. You already got your card going. So once you give birth, you don't really have to worry about these payments because they're already set up and automatically they're going to cover you for 6 more weeks if you had a vaginal birth or 8 more weeks if you had a C-section, which is excellent. However, that's only one side of the equation. That was how you got paid. Now, the other side of the equation is, well, how are all your benefits and everything else like your job security protected during this time, during the time that you're truly disabled from either being pregnant or just giving birth? Well, there are 2 laws that are important. One's a federal law, it's called FMLA, and one is a state law, it's called PDL, Pregnancy Disability Leave Act. I'm not even going to go into FMLA because basically the PDL is the much stronger, more robust one that covers Californians. And like I said, I'm not going to get into all the details. Please refer to your packet and everything that's in there. But the main thing that you need to know about PDL is that in order to qualify, you need to be working for a company with 5 employees. So that's why that was really important in the beginning. And PDL is protecting your benefits for 4 months. So if you back it up, okay, we know that disability is covering you for 4 weeks to 6 or 8 weeks after. So if you add all that up, that's about 1 month before you're pregnant, and then a month and a half after you're pregnant. That was about 2.5 months you were on disability. According to that law, the PDL law, where you have still 4 months to cover your health benefits, you still have a month and a half left where you could take and extend your disability and still be covered by the law to retain your job and have your health benefits. Something that I definitely encourage you to think about is that when you're doing your checkup appointments, because after you have a baby, like the first thing you're going to do is go to the pediatrician, they check on the baby, and you're going to go to your OBGYN, and they're going to check on you. You can communicate with your doctor. You can tell them how you're feeling. Are you ready to go back to work? Do you feel healed? Because just because, state disability has this guideline that says, hey, after 6 weeks, we expect that you should be healed and ready to be back, from your pregnancy, that might not be how it actually works out. There's actually an entire list of medical conditions that are related to this that a doctor can extend your disability. We have it in the packet. If you're experiencing those and your doctor says, I don't think you're quite ready to go back to work, they can extend your disability. It's important to know that under that PDL law, you don't really want to extend your disability much more than 4 months, because then you're getting into that territory of, well, you're getting paid, but you're not having your health benefits covered. So what I recommend, or in this scenario, this person had a vaginal birth, and what they did is, due to the circumstances where they couldn't go back to work due to a pregnancy-related issue, they had their disability extended for 6 more weeks, basically the amount of time that's covered under the PDL law. So that is essentially, in a nutshell, the entire disability part. This is all about the pregnant mom healing, going through the experience of childbirth and after childbirth. This is everything you need to know about that section. Now, there's this whole other section that's all about bonding that happens next. So this section is called paid family leave. So paid family leave is kind of confusing because it's so similar to disability, but it's definitely different. So I'm going to go over the similarities. So paid family leave is similar to state disability because, one, it's right there under the same exact website. So where you're signing up for state disability is where you're going to sign up for paid family leave. You're also getting paid the exact same way. So for instance, that debit card that you got all your disability checks from, that's exactly where you're going to get your paid family leave checks from. However much you got paid on disability, that's exactly how much you're going to get paid on paid family leave. Very similar systems. Where paid family leave is different from disability is disability is really all about the pregnant person recovering, experiencing pregnancy. It's all about the pregnant person. However, paid family leave is all about bonding. So this can be awarded to not just the pregnant person, but it could be awarded to a father or same-sex marriage or a foster parent or an adoptive parent. Now, basically what you're getting is 8 weeks of paid time to bond with your child. Now, what's really important is you don't have to necessarily take that bonding time right after your disability ends. You can take that anytime between the first year of your child's life. It's also interesting to know that the laws that are protecting you during this portion are different than the laws that were protecting you when you're on disability. So just quick reminder here, when you're on disability, you basically were having PDL make sure that you're getting your health benefits, making sure that you are getting your job security. While you're in the bonding section, you're going to have CFRA, California Family Rights Act. That's what's going to be protecting your health insurance and protecting your job security. Now, what's interesting is that the CFRA, in order to get it, you have to work for your company for that 1 year, 1,250 hours, and it can last for up to 12 weeks. So it's kind of interesting that technically you could even go for a further 12 weeks to bond, but only 8 weeks of it is going to be paid under the paid family leave program. So back to our timeline, we're just saying we cruised right through it. Let's just recap. We did 4 weeks before on disability. We gave birth. We did 6 weeks after on disability. We got extension for 6 weeks so that everything fits nice and neat under the PDL. And then right after that, we just transitioned into bonding, where we took 8 weeks under the paid family leave program, and we protected ourselves by knowing that CFRA is there to protect us for work. So finally, 6 months has gone by and it's time to get back to work. There's one more law that's really important to know when you go back to work, and that's PWFA, Pregnancy Workers Fairness Act. This is a brand new law. Essentially, it basically is there to help reasonable accommodations. So reasonable accommodations means you can have water at your desk, maybe you could park closer. It means that you could wear like a different uniform, stuff like that, that there's pumping rooms, maybe you take longer breaks to pump. As a nurse, this is really important because this is a time that when you come back to work, you might need to negotiate what's reasonable. If there's a bunch of openings at your job and some are for part-time, you can say, hey, I think it's reasonable that I take the part-time position and not the full-time position. Or, I was working nights the last 5 years and I think now it's reasonable that I get the day shift job or whatever. Of course, not every single thing here is 100% guaranteed. It's like reasonable with the company you're working for. And a huge caveat here is you have to be working for a place that has at least 15 or more employees. But if you do, it's great to know. Like, look up the law and read it, and then you can go to work kind of armed with the knowledge of how they can best support you, because a lot of companies, they do want to support you. They just don't maybe even know all the ways that they can. So that is the end of the beautiful timeline of 6 months paid, except for that first week, and you get to retain all your benefits and you're able to go back to work. For more info on accommodations, again, check the PDF. It's got everything that you need in there. This is just one scenario. Again, this scenario is 4 weeks before birth, 6 weeks after birth because it was vaginal. You extended another 6 weeks, and then you used your 8 weeks of bonding. And that's what gave you about 6 months of paid maternity leave. There are a million options out there, okay? And it's important to also know that we didn't even cover that in disability, you can be protected all the way up to 52 weeks. Okay, so now you're here because you didn't pay into state disability. Don't worry, we got you covered there. So say you work for yourself, you're an independent contractor, you own your own business, there is an option where you can pay into DIEC. That's Disability Insurance Elective Coverage. Where you're going to find it is right there on the EDD website. That's where you normally would access state disability and paid family leave. They have an awesome section there, and we have a whole breakdown that's in our packet. And basically what you can choose to do if you want, if you qualify, is to just give a portion of money privately into the DIEC program. And then, boom, you become eligible to get all the normal disability and paid family leave benefits that state disability provides. So one thing you need to know is you need to make $4,600 net profit annually. There's a few other details like how much you have to pay into it that again is all broken down in our PDF. So go check it out. Now, let's say you're a teacher. So you don't own your own company, right? You work for another company. It's just that company doesn't pay into state disability. It's such a bummer because, teachers are the ones that are helping raise everybody's kids. And it seems like they're the ones that have the hardest time to get covered by all these state benefits. Now, I don't know a whole bunch personally because I'm not a teacher myself, but we talked to a whole lot of teachers. And basically, this is what they told us. They told us that there's a California Teachers Association. And inside the California Teachers Association, you can choose to have elective coverage through them. And they have their own system of you paying a certain amount of your paycheck, and then that's giving you a certain amount of money during mat leave. Now, it's really important that teachers do their own research here because what a lot of people told us is that you have to start paying into it before you're pregnant, right? Before you have that pre-existing condition. So it's just so hard to know all this stuff beforehand. That's why I really wanted to let everybody on the podcast know, hey, if you're a teacher, it's really important to look into your coverage. The other thing that I think is important to know is some teachers told me, you know what, it was just made more financial sense that the money that they were going to spend to put into the program, they just put into a savings account. So that's an option too. And we break it down into way more detail in the PDF. But just know that there are options out there and there's many different ways to get what you need to have the best maternity leave ever. Now, here's some nuggets of wisdom that I had to learn the hard way, and I just want to let you guys know right off the bat. So number one, I did not realize that, of course, it makes sense now, while I was on maternity leave, it wasn't like my health insurance was free. So before when I was working, I paid about $500 a month into the health insurance for my family. Now, when I was on maternity leave for 6 months, obviously that wasn't coming out of my paycheck because I wasn't getting a paycheck from work. So when I came back to work, I had to actually back pay 6 months worth of all my health insurance. So that was $3,000. So my first few paychecks back to work were really small because they were kind of back paying the health insurance that I wasn't paying into for the 6 months when I was on mat leave. So just keep that in mind that you're still paying for your health insurance. Number two, the big mistake I made is I did not realize that right after I gave birth, I had to call my health insurance and tell them that literally I had a daughter, she was born, and here's her birth certificate. Apparently, your health insurance only covers you and not your baby yet, because not when they're born or something like that. Essentially, I had a $30,000 bill sent to my house, and that was purely for all the things that my daughter had to get after she was born. She was covered when I was pregnant, but not when she was born because I didn't tell my health insurance within 30 days that she was born. So look into your health insurance and definitely let them know, hey, am I supposed to call you and let them know that, yes, indeed, she's born and now she needs to be under my health insurance plan? Because I had to do it after the fact and it was so stressful. Okay, 6 weeks having a newborn and getting that giant bill and having to call insurance companies pleading, sorry, I didn't know this existed. That was a terrible experience. The third thing is that I didn't quite learn the hard way, or at least some of the nurses I worked for had to learn the hard way, is that 1,250 hour rule. So if you work 40 hours a week, no problem. You're most definitely going to hit that if you worked 1 year before birth. But if you're part-time, a lot of nurses work 20 hours a week, 24, 28. You need to kind of add up how much you're actually working in a year's time. And if you're just 20 hours short, pick up overtime. Make sure you're hitting that mark. Talk to your boss. Be like, hey, how many hours have I worked by the time I've given birth? Because you want to qualify for as much of the benefits as you can. So those are the 3 things I learned the hard way. And I hope now you don't have to learn them the hard way too. All right, all you mamas and new parents out there, I really hope this helped. My entire intent here is that You have the best start to motherhood possible. This information for me was golden. I hope it was golden for you.
You're never alone on this motherhood journey. We're here to support you every step of the way.